good. How's the coronavirus going for you?
I just got off the phone with my outfitter there, and he's freaking out, man. What is it with old people and just not being scared of dying, but just stop believing what you fucking hear on the news.
Well, this is it. There was an intro. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday. We were up in Dublin doing some street photography, and he was just talking about his brother who's in Australia, and that it's like his brother was saying that deep freezers have sold out, or meat has sold out. That it's just like it's literally doomsday prepping by normal people, for want of a better word. Like,
fuck's sake, like.
Yeah.
It's getting boring now, to be honest. But I still think that it'll be all over within the next week or two.
Well, the thing, it's obviously they're really pushing it at the minute, because I do not pay attention to any news. I deliberately avoid, and I have it so much of it blocked. So I mean, it's very hard for things to get through. So when things actually do get through, I assume Edward Bernays is on full throttle. And this last week, it started to get. It's really been. I don't know where I'm hearing it. It's. Like, I know Italy has been kind of basically shut down,
but the thing about Italy is I was talking to a good friend of mine, moved back to Italy a couple of years ago, and I was texting him yesterday. He's a Juventus fan. He goes to, he has a season ticket for Juventus, so he goes to every, every home match.
There's that coronavirus going.
And last night was the Derby d'Italia, so it's the biggest game in Italian football. It's Juventus versus Inter. Now,
it's just like the equivalent of the FA Cup or something, is it?
No, it's like Barca versus Real or Man United versus Liverpool. It's just
like when Batman fights Superman.
It's exactly like when Batman fights Superman. Yeah, Batman is in Gotham and Superman has to travel from, where's he from?
Metropolis. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So let's not bore people who aren't into football, but it was played behind closed doors yesterday, which means that instead of there being 65,000 people at the match, there was like 50. The two teams and the staff.
The equivalent of like a five-a-side indoor soccer match.
It's very bizarre to watch it, because like.
And was it shown on TV?
Yeah, it was shown on TV. It would have been shown, but it was probably the biggest viewing figures in years because no one was at it. And
did the pump-in sound of people cheering or anything?
No, nothing. It's bizarre, man. Like, it was like watching a practice match, and you're kind of like wondering, like, because that type of match is perfect for the type of betting I do, and I just stay away from it, because when there's no home advantage for a team,
you're
just like no
idea.
So it's very, very bizarre to watch, and I mean, it's cool to hear the players shouting at each other, because you can't normally, like, you see them shouting, but you don't know what they're saying. Yeah. But then again, it's in Italian anyway, so I don't really understand that. But
is it true that all the Italians came over here for some rugby match that didn't happen or something like that?
Yeah,
they're bringing the coronavirus.
The Italians had their holidays booked anyway. They said, "Fuck this, I'm going to Ireland. Ireland's brilliant. I don't blame them. It's a great party town." So whatever.
Yeah, come over here and kill us. Gordon White, who come
here.
Sorry.
On the Italian thing. So my friend was saying that they're beefing up the numbers a lot, and people who were dying of coronavirus are actually dying of other stuff, and they're pumping up the numbers because they want to have more funding and more money from the budgets, which are coming up fairly soon. And he said as well that the government has had this huge overreaction, because they have to look strong, because the government over there is quite weak. They have to look very, very strong. Because the opposition are like, well, you should be doing this, and they're like, all right, you think we should be doing that? We'll fucking double down, bitches, And so my mate is like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, it's not nearly as, like, it's very strange. Like, some people are panic buying and stuff, and then other people don't care at all. And he says it's just a weird situation. But he said, like, what you're hearing on the news is not true at all. Like.
Well, there's definitely even panic buying in Ireland, because you've like, it's not quite no bread, no flour, no milk, but it's like a lot less bread, a lot less milk.
There was no flour in the shop I went into the other day.
Yeah. Gordon White, who I spoke for, Rune Soup guy. He's been kind of he's big into parapolitics, political stuff, but from a kind of conspiracy angle. But that's not. It is a conspiracy angle, but not in the way Reddit would call it conspiracy.
Right. Okay.
Not fucking far off it though, right? But he sent an email around this morning just pointing out that there was this tweet saying that if I'm reading it correct, and I may not be, that the market where they said this all started is due to be demolished tomorrow or today or whatever. But one was saying, well, that's interesting because it ceased to function as a market on the 1st of January and has been taken apart and all cleaned up since then. So it's like, it's where do the lies begin? Where is the, where's the whole thing? And our mutual friend, Johnny Pixel, sent on Slack this infographic, that updates of how many people are dying in real time. And then the next graphic besides how many people are being, responding to treatment. Right. I was going, that's there's definitely people with that as a constant on their TV, just looking at that.
Not. I mean, it's. But sure, it's bullshit. Like, what is it? It's like you have a 5% bigger chance of dying with this than you do with the flu or something like that. Like, so what?
Yeah, but the flu kills like thousands of people every year. And it's like...
They're saying like in Italy, the people are dying. Yeah, but like the average age of the person dying in Italy is 81. That's not bad.
No, that's fair enough.
If I get to 81,
something's going to get you.
I'm not going to get to 81. I have no fucking chance of getting 81. The way I lived in my 20s, having a fucking hope. There's no way. I'm lucky to be alive as it is. I
don't know. The Kellys have serious longevity. My grand auntie's like 90 million years old, something like that. And still, only stopped driving.
That's
like
women, though. Women live longer, though, because they have less feelings or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like if a woman, like if a woman,
they're just more stubborn. I'm not fucking dying. they're cleaning to be done.
There's that thing about like if a wife dies before the husband usually dies like within 2 years. Sorry, 2 years later on average. But for women, it's like 20 or 30 years or something. They're like, fuck him.
My granddad died 2 years to the day after my grandmother.
Mad, huh?
Like he's just to be a cliche.
Yeah,
that was his only reason.
Do you know fucking Lou Reed is like? Lou Reed died in 2013. That's just like Lou Reed. Two songs come on today, and I was going, oh, Jesus, sure. Yeah, poor old Lou. He can't be that long dead. And I looked it up. 2013 he died.
I smell a suspicious Mandela effect thing happening here. I think he only died 2 years ago. Did he die in prison in the 80s?
I mean, it's kind of. Maybe that is a Mandela. Maybe that's my my one and only Mandela. Because I love a big like the way the way the way most people love David Bowie. That's the way I feel with Lou Reed. Fucking love Lou Reed. I even like his Metallica album. I think it's bonkers.
Do you?
Yeah, I think it's mental.
Well, it is bonkers, but it's definitely more Lou Reed album than a Metallica album.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you approach it from that, it's fine.
Mental.
But it is odd, like the last, and I think that's probably just our age. The last 10 years seems to have gone, so fast. It's like the whole thing of like the 70s are 30 years ago, but so are the 90s.
Yeah. It's mad. It's an awful to think that like fucking Nirvana was popular 30 years ago, and you're like, Jesus.
30 years ago.
What? Yeah. I'm so old. She totally killed him though.
Yeah, seems to be. I'm reading, I'm listening to Alec James, the bass player from Blur, which I'm sure you know, but it's more for the people at home.
Isn't he the cheese? Is he the cheesemaker? That him?
He's that's the ferryman. His biography, and it's just talking about. It's really good, and if you're into, which I know you are, music biographies, it's definitely worth checking out. He's very honest about the whole thing, but it's a real eye opener. Like it's basically like a bunch of early 20-year-olds who are living in hovels. He's talking about the snails that are in his kitchen. To a week later, limousines, huge, all this kind of, and just that whole madness of it. But he's talking about, the day Nirvana came out and how it nearly killed their career before it started because it killed that whole Manchester scene.
Yeah.
And they were being lumped into that kind of thing. And you forget just how young Kurt Cobain was. Like, he died at 27. Like, Jesus Christ, I knew nothing at 27.
I still don't know anything. I'm nearly 40.
I still don't know anything. But, and I totally, I understand. I don't understand. Like, you can't understand what that must do to you. You know what I mean? Damon Albarn himself says it took him a couple of years to get his head around it. From, cheeky chappy, arguing with people to most important person in the world, 20, 30 photographers outside your house.
Yeah.
It's weird. It must be insane.
Yeah, man, the Harry Potter kid, what's his name? The guy with the glasses.
Harry.
No, the actor.
I know
Johnny Vegas, whatever the fuck his name.
Johnny Vegas, yeah.
I loved his trick for the paparazzi. He used to wear the same clothes every day. That's just brilliant. It's such a simple idea. It was perfect. Yeah. He would wear the same.
To grow up, he did a play and got his cock out. Not basically how he launched himself out of the Harry Potter kind of thing.
Yeah. He did a theatre thing, got his knob out. Yeah. What the fuck is his name, I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Legolas.
I only watched a couple of that. Did you like? I liked Harry Potter.
I didn't watch them when they came out. Vanessa, my wife, loves them, and so I watched them one Christmas and didn't hate them. There was one in particular, the one with Gary Oldman, that he's kind of the main thing. I was probably the one I enjoyed
I think
the
I
most.
That one. Yeah, I watched up to the third one or fourth one, I think, and I fell asleep in the cinema, and then I said, no, obviously these aren't very good. Why am I watching them? No, but they were just. It's a bit like, I mean, we spoke about this when we were talking about comics as well. It's just, for some things, for me, it's just a bit too kiddie or something, you know.
I understand. I have that with superheroes for the most part. But it's it's an awful lot of these things. It's like Lord of the Rings. I doubt anyone in their 60s maybe is going to suddenly get into the Lord of the Rings. You know, I think there is an element of nostalgia to it, and a time and place, and say, you know, that comfort thing of, oh, I'll go on an adventure with Gandalf when I'm 12 or whatever. That doesn't probably work as much if you're 50-year-old. You know, so Harry Potter isn't for us. You know, although people our age love it, so it's hard to know.
I was thinking about this because the way that Grant Morrison talks about the superheroes, they're supposed to be like our kind of, or this century's kind of version of the Greek and Roman gods and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, and if you re-examine it that way, yeah, I can see that. But at the same time, I mean, Zeus used to come down and fuck loads of women and stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
but isn't Tony Stark a player?
Yeah, but
you know
superhero didn't do. Yeah, but he doesn't do anything as cool or as edgy as that. You know what I mean?
No, but that's because we've very satisfied or what's that word? Sanitized our gods.
Well, that's kind of my problem with the superhero ones and the likes of Harry Potter. It's like, yeah, like, I mean, if it's like the Harry Potter stuff, like it's quite dark, but it's not like no one ever says, "Oh fuck."
And there's no actual threat.
Yeah.
Really.
It's like, okay, yeah, it's dangerous, but it's not really dangerous, is it? Not? It's not Zeus throwing thunderbolts at you and then shagging your sister and then a goat being born, kind of thing.
Who also has an interesting story and goes on to have many an adventure. But Grant Morrison always then points out, though, about his problem, one of his many problems, that's my word, not his, with Alan Moore, when he made the superheroes gritty and dark and, you know, menacing and all that. And he says, and it kind of took the power out of them, or the, you know, like the fun or the redemption, I suppose, in many ways. It just made everything shit and made the world shit. Yeah. And, you know, Grant Morrison's big into this kind of punk positivism. Yeah. And, you know, like, because he says, because you're not allowed to be positive. And so, fuck you, I'm going to be positive. You know, like, and I love that. And again, I'm not able to do it as and I hope he's able to do it as much as he says he is. But so I do, as much as I love the Alan Moore deconstruction, and Frank Miller is probably as much to blame as Alan Moore is with, like, Dark Knight Returns, Year One, that kind of stuff, that kind of late 80s Reagan, Thatcher era. But the world was a dark place, you know, like. But it led to the shitty 90s Image Comics, which was just gritty for gritty's sake. It was nothing behind it other than just, you know, testosterone and darkness and emo-ness, but no reason for it. And I think that's more what he's pointing at, that Alan Moore's to blame for that rather than Watchmen's a bad comic.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Yeah.
No, it's cool. I mean, it's not like I can't go back. I even one of the lads used to know fairly well. He gave me his, like, prized possession of, like, the Marvel Wars. What was it called? Civil War ones. And, like, this book was worth a fucking fortune. He gave me this thing. It was like the final episode or the final battle or whatever the fuck it was. I don't remember. But, like, it was beautiful. So it must have been worth 200 or 300 quid, like. And he was like, I don't give this to anyone. I don't. So you got to be very fucking careful. But this means I like you. Okay. So yeah, of course, I was very careful with it. And but it's the same thing. It's just like, it's missing something. You know. It's just there's something. I can't. No, I can put my finger. It's sanitized and it's not rough enough or something. Even though, like you say, that
I'd love you to read some comics. I would suggest you that are because, like, I have the same misgivings about superheroes as you do. And when I say I'm into comics, people just think you're saying I like Batman. I like Batman as much as anyone likes Batman. Like, don't get me wrong, but they're not the comics I read. Like, you know, there's a world away from Batman and say something like Love and Rockets or Cerebus or, you know, it's the same as manga. You know, and people look at manga and some, you know, it's so hard to find the area of manga you like, because there's so much of it, and it's all. And if you just if you go into Waterstones and you pick the first manga, you're gonna go, what the fuck is this? You know, but I could definitely suggest some stuff to you that I think you'd like. I recently read one called Good Night Pun Pun, which is possibly the greatest comic I've ever read in my life, and it's at least 6,000 pages.
Yeah.
You know what?
No, I love the Sandman books. I thought they were great, like, you know. But it's a mad subject to take on, you know.
Yeah.
These archetypes of Dream and all the rest of them. I don't remember them.
Yeah.
It's years since I read it. But yeah, that's a great thing. And there's no like superhero-y stuff in it, you know. And it's all.
But it's like the Sandman originally is from the superhero genre. Like it's just him. Although it's Neil Gaiman completely changed the entire thing.
But it's and then playing on these myths and all that stuff. Like there's Cain and Abel are in the first book and stuff. Or there are two brothers who are still alive and they fight over souls or something. It's like, what the fuck?
Well, they have him captured, isn't it? That how it starts, Morpheus. That they have him.
Yeah,
in the
they
basement
have
of
him
that,
captured. Yeah, that's right. That's how it starts off. And I remember there was something else as well in one of the books about a guy who was able to live forever just because he decided to one day. And Dream would come back and meet him every 100 years or something.
Oh, how you getting on? What's the crack? He'd be in the pub. Oh, it's great.
Yeah. And then like the third one, he's like, fucking kill me. I hate living forever. And then the next one, he's coming back. He's like, this is grand. I like it again. I can do what I want. You know? Yeah.
And then you've something like Midsummer's Night Dream, that whole thing.
That one's great.
It's so good. And it's like he's talking about in the masterclass that he's talking about this, that it nearly didn't happen because he literally, the idea of it was just to do like Sandman looking at it. And he goes, well, and the editor went, what's the fucking point of that? You know, he goes, all right, I may put a story into this as well. And of course it turns into that. Yeah. And I think that kind of made Sandman. I think up then it was very interesting. People were into it. This is kind of cool. And then went, oh no, this is a different level. This is kind of... And I think that's probably the moment where Neil Gaiman became Neil Gaiman.
Probably so, because he hadn't... what had he done before that? He had done that BBC show... oh, God... The first thing that
he did a Duran biography. That was one of the things he'd done just before then.
Did he? Like as a ghostwriter, though, yeah, or as Neil Gaiman?
No, well, I mean, he was hired to write a book, and he was a writer that was you know, I don't know if it's under his name.
It must have been a ghostwriter. It has to be.
No, well, if you're a nobody and you're asked to write a book, you're going to write the book.
Oh, yeah, of course you are, but you're not going to put your name to it. You know?
Yeah, it's Duran or Spandau Ballet or some sort of romantic. Era UK band.
I'm trying to find the first thing that he fucking did. Neverwhere. That's the first thing he did. Yeah.
Well, that's his first novel. That's after Sandman. It has to be.
No. But Neverwhere was the first. Was 1996. Oh, so it is after Sandman. But that was the first thing he did for telly.
Yeah. So that's the BBC.
And it's so badly made, but it's very good.
The play that they did of it, the radio. It's not exactly a play, whatever the radio version of it is quite good. Good cast in it and stuff.
Yeah. So look, what were we supposed to talk about this week, Tommy?
Well, we were going to a while back, a number of years ago. I did a series on Adventures in Woo Woo. Back, you remember when blogs were a thing?
Yeah. I even had one.
And get excited by blogs and read other people's blogs. And then podcasts really took over that whole thing. And it's interesting because the last couple of weeks I've seen so many people lamenting the demise of blogs and wishing for the golden era to return. But it's not going to. It's over.
Oh, yeah, it's gone. It's dead. Yeah, good luck.
So this was going to be a series that I was doing. It was called Self-Help for Wizards. Or something vaguely similar to that. Personal Development for Wizards. And you can definitely tell, I was reading it for the first time last night again. I was obviously reading some books or watching some videos or something on how to really do good blogs, you know, kind of have it chunked out and have quotes in it and all this kind of stuff.
And stuff. Yeah.
There was one guy in particular I remember reading a book about, and he was saying never have a paragraph longer than, you know, like 2 lines. And I was going, oh, these are all the things I hate about blogs. But I did one, like, followed his thing completely. I don't know which one it was. Maybe it was around this time. And people did really respond more to it, you know, because it turns out people don't read blogs, they just skim the first sentence of everything, all that, so it makes sense. But it was just the idea behind it was that, as I've talked about before, numerous things, there's a whole kind of thing in magic, or the occult, or New Age, or whatever is the proper blanket kind of statement for whatever that is, where it's all about, I'm doing this for the stuff, I'm doing it because I want more money. I want my girlfriend back. I want the better job. I want this kind of thing. And while, 100%, go for it. That's great. I think there was a kind of a need then for also, well, you should probably try to be a bit of a better person as well. You know what I mean? Like an awful lot of the teachings in occultism, particularly around.
Why did she leave you? You know,
yeah,
why? Maybe you're a bit of a dickhead.
Why do you never have your money for your rent?
Maybe you need a shower.
Oh, but like that's it. Like rather than like Jason Miller, who's a well-known magician, he would say like, I think it's him who said this is that emergency magic. He either says, oh no, I have to. Anyway, Jason Miller is somehow related to what I'm about to say. That emergency magic is the worst type of magic.
All right.
Because, or he probably said it's the best type of magic, and I had a reaction to it. But it's that because if you're just constantly doing magic to pay your rent this week, then which is emergency magic, rather than working on the bigger picture of becoming a more wholesome and getting your life in balance and all like this.
So you're putting a Band-Aid on a scratch instead of getting a stitch.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And I understand that. But the counter to that is no one comes to magic if their life is perfect. No one would seek out. It's like I was in a bookshop recently and I was just walking through and there was the self-help section and it's like, oh, the broken person section. There's no one who's happy or is, has a good job, is happy with the people they work with. The wife loves them or whatever. Kids are doing well. It's going in and going, I'll just go into the self-help section and I'll see what's going on in there. And it's like, so that's the thing. It's easy to kind of point at people and tell them not to do emergency magic, but you're obviously into magic because your life isn't great. But most people start that way. Some people get out of it very quick. But the kind of idea of alchemy and is the transformation of the person into the thing. And there's two kind of trains of thought in, I was going to say Western magic, but we'll just say in contemporary magic, where you have the left hand path and the right hand path. And it's usually the kind of dichotomy of that is that good guys versus bad guys is one way of looking at it, or, white lighters versus edgelords. Or people who are, I only use white magic versus people who go, I use black magic. But it's kind of the actual thing is, even though it's a stupid kind of split anyway, is that in white magic or right hand path, I don't know why I'm pointing to my left, I will switch around right. It's that the ultimate goal is that you rejoin the Godhead, you become back to the Creator with the source, and you become back to one. So that and somehow the fall of man, you separated yourself from God or whatever, and that your journey through these planes of earth and all these things is to find your way back, which is at the most kind of common threads through most, I suppose, semi-religious kind of philosophies. That's kind of, we've fucked up, let's get back to that. That kind of thing. Uh-huh. Yeah. Whereas on the left-hand path, it's
burn it all.
It's essential, but it's I'm going to become my own God.
Right. Yeah.
The whole the whole point of all this is the evolution of turning myself from the shit into gold. Which is, that's the thing about me. So, you become.
But is there then a yin and yang between them, or what, or do they just they're separate?
Well, it's not a real thing anyway. Like it's the left hand right hand path thing was from like kind of 19th century magic, occultism, things like Theosophy. Crowley got into it a bit. Golden Dawn. It's a kind of a bad translation of Hindu type stuff or Hindu ideas, or at least the Asian ideas. We have the Varikarma, I think I'm pronouncing that absolutely wrong, but there's the left-hand path in Hinduism. But they do things like break taboos, they'll eat human flesh, they'll shit on their hands and rub it in their face. Not to be edgelords, but to go, stop having these rules about life.
Okay.
That are arbitrary, that you're just, you've kind of... they're not. There's nothing kind of essential, or not essential. There's nothing. They don't exist in reality. It's just we as humans have decided that this, that
you shouldn't put shit on your face.
We shouldn't do this. Yeah, well, I mean, and we have taboos and certain things like that because people die when you do things like that. Yeah. But it's just like that thing of long pig being, what cannibals call human meat and stuff like that.
Jesus.
You know, and I mean, like, the reason why you don't do that is like because after 2 generations or something weird happens to your DNA,
Right.
and you go fucked. So there's obviously, we have taboos for the sake of taboos, but we also have taboos like you shouldn't masturbate, which probably you know, where does that come from? That comes from guilt and shame and stuff like that, which, you know,
I wonder what's it like. Yeah, like a taboo now is that like you can't marry your cousins anymore. But like,
well,
I mean,
you can't marry the odd. You can marry the evens. Isn't that what it is, or the other way around?
Yeah, but years ago, like Jesse James.
You can marry your first cousin, but you can't marry your second cousin.
No, but it's not. No, yeah, now you can marry your second cousin without permission. But you can still marry your first cousin with written permission from the bishop.
From who?
From the bishop.
Oh, a bishop.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not an actual civil law.
No. Like, and it's not that long ago that people were married. Like Jesse James married his cousin, Isa or Eliza, something like that. They had a couple of children. Didn't Charles Darwin marry a cousin? Albert Einstein's second wife was his cousin, like first cousin. Right. Yeah, so it was really common. And,
was it just that there was less people then?
I don't know, but like, I mean, like, you know, we'll know this being from Ireland. Ireland's a little island. Well, it's a big island with a small population. So there has been an awful lot of inbreeding going on. And that's why there's a lot of like MS and these weird, horrible bone and blood diseases and stuff.
No, that's fairy forts. We've talked about this.
Sorry, it's fairy forts. Got nothing to do with bad genes. Yeah, so like, but now that's a total taboo. So it is. Like now it's like, don't marry your cousin. What the fuck are you talking about? That's disgusting, you freak. But like 50, 100 years ago, it's like, yeah, man, my cousin, man. Oh my God, you should see her.
yeah. But I suppose then you had Adam and Eve, and then who had 2 sons, and then
yeah.
And then what happened? Did that work out?
It's hilarious, isn't it? Isn't that about? Is it the king? Is it King David or John the Baptist? I think it was King David. King David's lineage went back to Adam and Eve, I think. Isn't that it?
Yeah.
How?
But also, it's Joseph's family, right? With his king.
Joseph was king.
So yeah. So
not Jesus.
Who cares? Because Joseph isn't Jesus' dad. So.
Well, that depends on what you read. Because any of the books that I've read on the kind of conspiracies of it, or the research. Actually, there's like Knights Templars and stuff who have written books about it, and they're like, well, look, okay, here's the thing, right? Look, Gabriel wasn't an angel, all right? It's been translated wrongly. I mean, I presume you know all this, do you?
Well, I know there's many different kind of things. It's the ancient alien kind of thing, is it?
No,
is that the one you're going down, or which one are you going?
So this angel Gabriel was a bad translation of Joseph and Mary were part of this strict Jewish kind of sect or cult.
The Essenes.
And they were into this real mysticism of God and how, you know, God was going to come back and save everyone. But like loads of sects had this thing. There was tons of different Christs born around that, or were supposed to be around that time. But anyway, this is the one that took off. And so what happened was Mary got pregnant, and they're like, right, we have to explain this. Well, look, the stars over there, they've all lined up. So it means that you've gotten pregnant without sin. It doesn't mean that it's God. It just means you're pregnant without sin. So this is the rebirth of God. You're going to give birth to the Savior. And then that was it. So it's Joseph's baby. It's just like they say, it's totally Joseph's baby. But because they were allowed conceive without sin, then it was
right.
It's just bonkers. And people just believe, an angel told her she was pregnant. Well, no, it's not what happened. You know.
But it's in the Bible.
But it's not in the Bible. It's translated wrongly. That's the problem.
Oh, but I mean, they're even saying that if you were to read Shakespeare plays as they were written in his day compared to what they are now, from, you know, printing, translations, all of these type of things, that you wouldn't recognise them for the most part.
Sure, like, Jesus.
So think of something that's 2,000 years old, like that was in Greek, that was translated to Aramaic, that was translated to English badly.
Yeah. But sure, like, were you ever given, like, you know, anyone that goes into study English in college, they're given Chaucer's fucking Canterbury
Canterbury Tales.
My God,
right.
that's a head wreck. Fucking hell.
Right.
I didn't study it or anything, but like one of the lads was studying English. He gave it to me. He says, "Here, have a go at that." I was like, "Whoa, what? What's going on here? That's not English." I don't know what the
But
fuck's
you
going
look
on
at
here.
James Joyce and Ulysses, like many times, can I read that first page and go, what?
Not worth it.
I actually thought Finnegan's Wake was worse like that. Like at least
Yeah.
if you listen to James Joyce just on a very mad tangent to the audiobook of it, it's much easier to understand because it's just
There's a good film
the accent thing.
with Stephen Ray. The Stephen Ray
All right.
Ulysses film is really good, yeah, and it's pretty much spot on. I think it leaves out the shitting scene because there's I think there's 9 pages of him taking the shit in
Nice,
Ulysses,
nice,
and it's just like one word of.
Oh, genius.
The book is
Man's
fucking
genius.
mental, like it's just, fair play to him.
So anyway, personal development for wizards.
Personal
So
development.
it was my idea out of all of this was that like, rather than we all just search for the things or do the magic for the things, you know, that we should also try to, you know, involve the alchemy a bit and become better people. So I was going to do this whole series of, you know, like kind of bringing personal development stuff into the magic type thing. But I got it like 2 posts and then, you know, the blog sphere disbanded and that was the end. But I suppose go through it. Some of it I don't agree with anymore because I just have a kind of, not that I nothing is as black and white as you would like it to be ever, you know. And I mean, there's always or wait a minute, ein Minute bitte. You know, there's always kind of some sort of quantifying thing or qualification that you need to add to it. But so anyway, the first one I come up with is take 100% responsibility for everything. The thing about that is that it sounds like you're doing victim blaming. You know, like you're 100% responsible for everything bad that happened in your life. And that's not what I mean by that at all. I mean responsible in the sense of what you do with it, rather than responsible in the sense of you are to blame for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's this kind of idea it's in a lot of things, but it's in Buddhism mostly. It's well known in Buddhism is that the reason that life is shit or dukkha or whatever way you want to translate. That's the first noble truth: is life is dukkha, which is kind of the axle of a wheel is slightly off balance. There's just something not right. You know, there's that. In the Matrix thing, you know, it's like the splinter in your brain. There's just something not right. But the reason for that is this thing of, which is also translated badly, of clinging or striving, but it's the idea, as far as I can gather, is in wanting things to be different from what they are. And so it's like, it's not the thing itself. It's not the world itself. It's not your failures, your success. It's not your relationship with your father. It's not the lack of money. It's your reaction to this lack of money.
Yeah.
Or whatever your problem is. And once you kind of are aware that you have responsibility for your reaction to this thing, then you kind of, you know, it opens, it allows the thing. It allows you to, in some way, you know, take your control back, but also allows you then to move forward and see that you have some sort of control in a world where, you know, ostensibly you don't have an awful lot of control over things. So when the idea of taking 100% responsibility for your life is seeing that while someone may be shitty to you, you can either carry that with you, you can react to it, or you can allow them to be a shitty person or whatever.
It's up to you how you react.
It's not easy, and it's definitely not something that you're going to, that anyone, I don't believe anyone can do it all the time or whatever. And but it's definitely, it's a much better way to approach things than to just go, that person's a cunt. Fuck him, he's to blame for everything that's happened in my life.
Yeah.
And when he sorts himself out, my life will be better.
Yeah.
Because he's never going to sort himself out, you know?
I wonder though about, you know, the way there's supposed to be these 16 different personality types, but you can boil it back further to like there's only 4 types of people, you know?
Yeah.
But the 4 types of people will have stronger kind of leanings towards, say, the north, south, east, and west on that divide kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, because the wife is into this, and because we were having some trouble with the young fella there a while ago, and she was like, right, well, he's a choleric type of person. And so are you. So am I. She went, to me. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and this is why we clash, and we will clash as years go on. Like, teenagers are going to be fun. But anyway, but it's the same with my dad. My dad's like that. I was like that. And growing up, we clashed a lot. We don't really clash much anymore. But Although today about coronavirus we did. But anyway, it didn't matter. But you see that people who have this choleric type of personality, they get road rage. And how many stories have I told you about like me getting pissed off on the road? You know.
Yeah.
But other people just don't get it because they just they can let things go much more easily. You know. And that's like what you're saying here about the 100% responsibilities. Like for some people, it's really, really fucking hard to let go of that. And for other people, it's they can do it easily. But I think the choleric people is that they dwell on it, they sit on it, but then they can let it go. But they have to go through it first. They have
to do the thing.
They have to go through it first, even if it's just in your head, you know. But they can't just let it disappear. They have to go through something first and then let it go. It's like there's a thing as well about like fighting or arguing with people who are choleric, and it's that the arguments are usually sharp, and intense, but 5 minutes later that's it. Like whereas other people, like I know from like arguing with my wife, like she, oh my God, like elephants don't forget type of thing. Like you know, like a week later she's still in a mood about something. Whereas me, I'm like, you know, 5 minutes later, yeah, sure, that fight's over now. It's grand. I lost, whatever. Okay. You know?
Yeah, I'm not like that. But it's like, the other thing though about like, say, things with road rage or certain things, it's different things represent different things to different people.
Sure.
So, I mean, like, say, taking your example of road and stuff like that, like, say there's, in Ireland we've roundabouts, they're called different things in different countries, but it's essentially when a crossroads hits and there's a circle in the middle and there's a way into it and there's rules around it. And you have to indicate to come off and you have to indicate to go in and change all these things. And when people don't do that, which most people don't, there's kind of two reactions. In RD, no one indicates in roundabouts. It's just, it seems to be a law. It seems to be something. And my wife, her kind of reaction, because she's also someone who doesn't indicate in roundabouts, it's just, she's like, so what? It's grand. Who cares? You know, for the most part. Like, obviously, sometimes if you're in a mood, it'll annoy you. And my kind of reaction is, it drives me insane. But it's because it represents a different thing to me. It represents people, a kind of type of attitude of, fuck everyone else. I know where I'm going. Fuck you.
Yeah, I get
it's dismissive. It's discounting. It's like that. So that's my trigger. So I'm not really reacting to someone not indicating. I'm reacting to, fuck you, I'm a person too. You know?
No, whereas, I agree with you. Yeah.
Wherein, it, like, say, my wife doesn't think indicating or not indicating has any bearing on her whatsoever.
It's funny, isn't
other
it?
people.
Like the people who don't do it, they have completely different mindset about us who think they should do it. No, because
well,
I'm like you. I'm like,
it's the fucking law.
I'm like, well, it's not it's the law for me. It's that, like, right, look, roads are dangerous, cars are dangerous. Let's all be as safe and as polite as we can so we can all get to where we're going to. But like some people, they're just driving up your arse and stuff, you know. And like, sometimes I do play the devil though, and I do fuck with the guys who are trying to get up behind me because I know I have a decent car now. I can play with them a bit. In the old car, no, not at all. But now I'm like, let's have a bit of fun. You know, which I know you shouldn't do at all. Like, you should just get out of the way. Fuck them. You know?
A friend of mine used to deliberately slow down for little boy racers, and he'd put his hand out the window and tap on the roof as if he was listening to music and do all this kind of shit just to annoy them. I was going like, don't do that. Well, he thought it was great crack, so. Which incidentally, this kind of leads into the next bit. Which is the whole thing of the victim game and seeing yourself as a victim and stuff like that. I've obviously talked about this on my own kind of videos and vlogs and stuff like that, a number of things. And I'm trying to, I've kind of have a different appreciation now, somewhat, than I do. I still think it's valid, mostly what I said, but I think there can be another layer to it. And I found out this other layer to it from doing the therapy, the psychotherapy stuff I've been doing recently, and it's this. So the idea, anyway, is to stop seeing yourself as a victim, which, I mean, it's fair enough, and stop seeing, you know, that the world is against you and stuff like that. I think mostly the world doesn't care about you, and so it's like that thing about the indicator is that you see yourself, you can deliberately see yourself in that moment as a victim. That person doesn't care about me; he only cares about himself. Blah blah blah. So you've thing, but that person just might have forgot to indicate. Not making any point, probably hates themselves equally, you know, or whatever. And it's that. And I have, you know, issues around, I'll not repeat them all here, but about the whole the victim mentality thing. But the kind of thing I've learned about that is there's a thing underneath it as well. And this idea of an inner critic, which I heard about before, but it's turns out to be an immensely prevalent thing in my brain. And it's, while there is the layer of the victim, of not seeing yourself as a victim, and then seeing how you do play the victim a bit, but then there's the kind of thing of that the third level is of this inner critic as you're using that to beat yourself up a bit more. It's another tool to say that you're a shitty person to yourself.
Wow.
So we have, you know, there has to be a kind of an awareness of, and this is the hard bit of all of this, because you have to recognise when you're playing the victim, when you are a fucking victim, or when you're, you know, you're just bullying yourself. And it's like, because not every situation is clear cut, and in some things you're going to try to get people to feel sorry for you because that works in that thing. The next thing, you are legitimately a victim because someone's been an asshole to you, and all these things. And I find it's that's what I'm saying about it's not as black and white as I would have felt when I wrote the blog and that kind of thing, because I was in a kind of a place of realising how much I played a victim and that kind of thing, and in one sense elated at seeing my assholeness, but then kind of realising then, I suppose, recently that it's another bow in my inner critics.
But is that what it was then? Because like you made a fairly recent video about this victim blaming, and so like reading back on this thing from like nearly 3 years ago, did it go bing for you? It's like fucking hell, I learned nothing 3 years ago, or is it just that this is that you've learned what your recent video was about, was that you've found that there's actually another level to this that you didn't know about earlier?
The recent video was the same. It was like that blog from 3 years ago was the initial revelation about how I do this victim thing within certain situations and seeing where it came from and having that thing, and then forgetting that I had that revelation, and then you know, just falling back into the fucking matrix of it, and then suddenly realising I knew I was doing this, and yet I still, you know, put on the victim jacket, went out into the victim world, and I had to look around and go, oh, do you know I'm a victim? I know, and then realising it. So there's the realisation, right, there it is, right, I can see it, I see what that is. And it's important to see that and see the action you're doing and all that. But the newer revelation is that there's a layer underneath that as well. So the thing 3 years ago, I was not remotely aware of the
levels of it,
the levels of it. There's kind of this insidious thing of that. While all of it's true, and there is times where, you know, it's bad behaviour, but the reason for the bad behaviour is not that I'm a shitty person, which is what the inner critic is telling you. Look at you, you're doing this victim thing, you know, there's another shitty thing you do, and look at all this, where you're going, oh, hold on, let's have a look at you. Why are you telling me all of this crap all the time? Because what my therapist was saying, it's another way to beat yourself up.
Yeah.
And rather than seeing it, it's not saying that the behaviour is good. It's not good. It's you know, it's maladaptive behaviour. It's you know, not good. But it's not, you know, it's another way of trying to get the thing you wanted. It's another way of trying to solve a problem. So it's not that you're being manipulative in a malicious way. You're still trying to get love, or you know, to not end up alone, or whatever it is, you know, your triggers within. So it's like, okay, that it's in a sense, you know, just calm down, don't beat yourself up over it, stop doing it, but you know, to understand that there's a bit more going on than you just being a shitty person.
It's mad. The mind is fucking fascinating that it hates changing its behaviour, and like stuff like this, like the kind of like if you stay on that line and you keep kind of going down the dark alley of it, say if there is a left and a right, and you keep going down the dark side, like that shit leads to like multiple personality disorders and shit, and schizophrenia and all.
Well, yeah, the fragmented, you know, psyches and all that kind of thing, but it leads to fucking depression and suicide, like you know, it's that kind of that's the role, but it's like avoidance of the darkness and avoiding the shadow and avoiding that also has its own shittiness. Like it's, you know, it has that it also leads to maladaptive behavior, to to different things where you think you're the perfect person, or or that you've again, it leads back to that kind of thing of that it's them. Then you have the loop again of if it's them, then I'm the victim and all that. If or not even them, but outside things. Where if I had more money, if I had a better job, if that bitch at work would just shut up, if my mother stopped nagging at me, then I would be perfect because I'm already perfect. It's just life is the problem.
Yeah.
So not these.
It's nonsense, isn't it? I mean, it's a mad one because it's like, I don't know if normal people, people who didn't have to go to therapy like me and you, we didn't have to, we chose to, but if they have this realization when they're 16 and there's like, okay, that's how life works. Okay, fine. Whereas like me and you were like in our 30s going, what the fuck is wrong with me? What is going on in my life? Why am I so down? And I wonder I thought how do other people come to this realization?
I've been thinking about that a lot recently because it's kind of that the self-help section of the bookshop is, where broken people go and stuff like that, and people who don't feel broken. I think we're all broken. I think the problem is that we realise we're broken, whereas an awful lot of people don't.
Yeah, maybe,
and it's like, I've had a couple of people in my life, and I'll not say who they are because it's not fair, and all that, who 100% think they're perfect. And not in that they're the best people in the world or whatever, but they would think, I don't have any problems.
Oh, yeah, I get you. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. My problem is that I only get one holiday a year.
This is code word for parents.
Well, it's not exactly. It's not because it's the main culprits aren't my parents in this situation. But it's so like they would never read a self-help book because I'm not broken.
Yeah, it's not me. Too.
You know what I mean? And you would kind of there's no point in ever trying to point out a character flaw or anything like that because it's just that's just who I am. That's not a flaw. That's my personality. That's just the way I am. Or that's and it's kind of so. But there is. You see that's the bad thing about though in frequenting the broken person's alleyway in the bookshop is that you can feel that you're more broken than other people because you're the only person working on this. Why do I have to do all this work? And and my wife is watching videos, of shopping, and her life seems to be working out fine, but I've all this crap that I have to deal with. Yeah, why is she happy in her ignorance or whatever it is? So just to really kind of go that if you're going to do this work, most people aren't. But that doesn't mean that you're any less fucked than the rest of them. It's just they mightn't have, and that's also you could be a bit more fucked than most people. But it's not that there's something inherently wrong with you, different than other people. And that was a big one for me because I thought I was more broke than other people, but not in a special chosen way, not in a victim way, but just that I've gone, I'm a bit fucked compared to other people. But it's just I think having looked at it is that I've looked at it a bit more. And I can kind of, coming from the whole thing of, I suppose, trauma in a sense, in a kind of thing, having depending on what way you want to look at it, traumatic kind of growing up and stuff. Not in different, trauma's different for everyone or whatever. But it kind of, because I was a bit broken, I realised that I had to look at this and I had to do it, and because it was kind of affecting things. Where some people's brokenness mightn't affect them in the same way, particularly in the world of business where you find that people who are actual psychopaths do well in that field of work. So your shadow can, I don't know, can kind of
I suppose
help in some ways.
It just all comes down to how you dealt with stuff at a young age, because some people things is just like water. It's just like water off a duck's back. Whereas for some people, you shoulder that shit for fucking the next 80 years. Yeah. So
there's a scary one that the therapist was telling me about, and he was saying that before you have language, you can come up with concepts or ideas around trauma. Trauma. I don't like the word trauma because trauma is like you go to war and you go through trauma. But trauma also involves you felt alone as a child. Like it's just a kind of a blanket. So but you can, if you have some sort of trauma or a thing, say you lost your mother in the shopping centre and you can't find her and this kind of thing. But say you're really, really young and you don't have words, but you'll put together feelings, you'll put together concepts and stuff like that, that you can't label, that you can't, but you kind of build a picture around it, or some sort of cohesiveness to that idea.
Yeah.
But the problem is when you're an adult, you can't describe it because there was no, it was formed before words, labels, or description. So you'd be going, I have this thing, and I don't know what it is, and it's here, and it's about, and it's going like, yeah, because you were probably 8 months old and you didn't know what to do, and this is what it is. And so you have to infer. So it's kind of like the thing, like say with my eye where I had the rash, and the doctor's kind of going, well, I don't know what it is, but we try this stuff, and you know, if that works, then we've an idea more of what it isn't than what it is. So in that kind of, when you have this kind of pre-verbal shadow stuff, say to go with Jungian terms, you have to kind of infer what it might be about, given the knowledge that we have about what was going on at the time. But that can be really weird because it doesn't make any sense, because you're making this up when you're like a year and a half old. So you have like, a really...
You see, I'm not sure you have it, but I presume your boy had separation anxiety when the wife left the room. Like Mike.
Oh yeah.
My young one still has it. She's 2, but she picks and chooses when she wants to have it. Like sometimes I will leave the room and the kid doesn't give a shit, and then other times she'll disappear for like 5 seconds and it's fucking Hiroshima. You know.
Yeah. But I suppose it's the same as us. It depends on what sort of day you have. Sometimes the guy not indicating at the end that I don't care about because I'm listening to the radio and life is great, and sometimes it's the crushing thing of the, you know, it's the final straw of today that's just broken the day completely.
Weird,
and I'm sure kids are like that too. Like, I was having a great crack with my tractor today, and they go, oh, that's mum, but she'll be back in a minute. Or then the next thing goes, I don't know what my tractor is. Oh, and my mommy's leaving.
Miriam, something caught my eye in it, and you've mentioned this before, but we've never got into it. And you were saying that let me. I won't read it, but no, will I read it? You were talking about why magic wasn't working for you, or that when you were doing it, you were getting the opposite result. You said that you did some banishing rituals, and you finally wound up doing an uncrossing ritual. And I went into those articles a bit as well, and did a bit of digging. So, like, for the uninitiated like me, what the fuck is this?
Well, it's very coming from a kind of traditional magic, and the things I was doing is more of a hoodoo type kind of thing, and it was just like the idea of that, you know, you've obviously heard of curses and you know, the evil eye and stuff like that, and it was just kind of, I'll tell you what it's traditionally kind of done.
Can I jump in quickly?
Yeah, like, of course.
Would you actually believe someone put a curse on you?
That's what I'm going to say. There's a kind of a traditional kind of a description of it and what I think. I mean, some people are 100% certain that you can curse people and have been cursed, and that's a real, tangible, physical, actual reality. I'm not so sure. That's the best, the politest way I can do it. In that, I definitely can feel, as an amalgamation of my victim mentality, feeling the world is kind of somewhat antagonistic towards you, having a bad day. Reality transurfing of stuff. If you have kind of negative things, that you attract things, you know, that negativity. Like, as I said to you before, I've totally proved the law of attraction is real for myself, but in the negative sense, in that if I'm in bad form, shit fucking goes bananas around me. And I also noticed that when I'm kind of in a state of despondency, is probably too strong a word, but you know, whatever that mood is, that when you get to, and life isn't the way you want it to be, that I obviously either become very clumsy, or my focus loses, but I'll spill things, things will fall, that kind of stuff. And I can understand the kind of feeling that people would feel, I'm cursed. You know, and there's a kind of a belief in me that if I somehow show my happiness, that it will be taken away from me. It's a belief that comes from childhood. That's, I'll tell you some other time. But it's this thing that if it's okay in a sense to be happy, but if I in some way acknowledge it, it'll be taken away from me. So from a reality transurfing kind of way, I will enact that. Now, to me, that seems external, and I can understand then why people would think they're cursed. And maybe I am cursed, but I'm going to take it from the working hypothesis that I'm not, that I'm doing this to myself. But I definitely have an appreciation of people who think they're cursed. Because it feels like it, and it's as good a description as a thing. But in the sense of at the time when the actual blog you're talking about, it was I was describing these things that I've since like described to my therapist and stuff like that, and the general consensus was to do this uncrossing ritual more for the symbolic act of it alone would be very helpful, like a new start, new kind of thing. But also, what if you're cursed?
It might help.
What are you actually losing here ahead of doing? Well, the only thing you could losing is buying into it if it is a false premise and you get into magical thinking in the negative sense of the word, in the. Yeah. But again, even if you want to become from a very kind of reductionist materialist point of view, if it's doing something like an uncrossing bath, which is putting herbs into a bath and putting water over your head and trying to clear yourself, all of that, it's essentially you're fumigating yourself. It's the same as when you sage the room and people say, oh, it gets rid of spirits, but it's antibacterial, it's antifungal. You can see why people do all of this type of stuff. It depends on how woo-woo you want to go with it, of course. But at that point, I think there was like everything I did would kind of break or fall, and it went. I think that I actually went. There's an uncrossing you can do, or a curse removal where you put an egg over your body, and the badness goes into the egg. But that comes from loads of different cultures. That's a very weird one that kind of popped up all around the place. But when I went to get the egg, it fell and it smashed everywhere. And I go, oh, for Christ's sake.
Actually, I heard of one. The wife told me about something was it a black egg from a chicken, or you take a chicken's egg and you bury it on a full moon or something. It wasn't her; it was her granny. Her granny would have been into all these old pagan kind of things. Yeah, I must ask her about it. Yeah, it's weird. But like I've been guilty of that growing up. I always thought I was unlucky, and I remember talking to someone about it. God, I don't remember, a cousin or an uncle or something like that. And he just looked at me and he said, the fuck are you talking about? You're the luckiest fucking prick I know. And he listed off a whole ton of things. And I just went, yeah, you're right, actually. I remember having this, I think I said it to you on a podcast. Maybe it was here on the Comedy Cast. It was that, like, I kind of came to the realization that, you know what, like, maybe I am actually more like what people think I am than I think I am. Do you know?
Oh, right.
Other people's kind of objective opinion of me is probably more like me than I think is like me. And then I went, okay, let's go with that Spud, because he seems sounder.
Yeah, he seems happier. Life seems better for him.
He seems nicer. People like that one. And I don't like this one. So yeah, okay, let's maybe enhance those characteristics, kind of thing. Maybe. I definitely did that. Because I used to always think I was unlucky, but I wasn't. Like, I was totally lucky.
Yeah, but the thing that I'm talking about, I don't think it's unlucky.
I know that.
It's like it's the feeling of the world being deliberately antagonizing, or like in the sense of having a demon beside you who just before you lift your coffee will just knock it.
Prick.
But only do little things that you could never go, oh look, the window has smashed in front of everyone, or or the cross has gone on fire. Everyone could see it. It's like these small things.
Is there anything in magic that you could say, like, right, that's Loki? So like,
oh yeah, well, I mean, like, you could describe all of these things as, like, Loki's a perfect actual example of that kind of trickster spirit. Yeah. You could approach it in many different ways. The cursing is one way. Being like under the kind of a maleficent kind of aura, or this kind of thing, or it's like the law of attraction, or like literally a demon antagonize you. That if you start doing magic stuff, you kind of light up in the astral plane, and that brings to the attention of the fucking shitty dark things that
But is there anything you can do? Is there anything you can do and say, right, okay, I've got a demon here. Is there anything that I can turn this demon into? What's the opposite of a demon? An angel? I don't know.
Well, no, they're mad bastards too. That's probably don't have your best. No, the magic thing is banishing. That's it.
You can't turn him on your side or anything like that.
Well, no, it's well. You could, well, I like the way you're thinking. You could definitely, you're thinking of like a witch trap or somewhere where you trap them and then, then you go, well, now you have to work for me.
Ha! Gotcha!
Yeah. There is, you probably could do.
Okay.
Yeah, you could approach it that way.
Okay. That's what I'd do.
Yeah.
Get him in a little jar, and look at him every now and again and dangle a sausage in front of him. I'll let you eat if you give me $1 million. You little bastard.
Yeah. Spilling my coffee. There's years.
You owe me $1 million. With lasers
that
on
milk.
No, cool. No, I just wanted to know because I was interested to see it. What these banishing rituals, because obviously the first thing I thought of, right, Tommy's after going into a forest here and he's been fucking catching squirrels and sacrificing them and all, but no, you just had a bath with some fucking
well, that's what
basil.
I did. Yeah, with some shade. But like, I mean, the going back to things like Jordan Peterson's clean your room.
Yeah, of course.
That's a banishing ritual.
Okay.
That's one-on-one.
Sure.
I mean, and it's as good as any magical occult-based banishing ritual that I've ever come across. More, so it's like these things. It all bleeds into. Unless you go full woo-woo and say it's an actual demon, that thing. But all of these kind of ideas bleed into each other. Cleaning your room is banishing. The saging is the same as spraying. An antibacterial thing in the air. Having tea tree going is the same as. All of this kind of stuff. It's all different words for exactly the same thing. So if you're a reductionist materialist, you're going to say, well, I sanitized the area with bleach and this thing. If you're an occultist, you go, well, I banished, all the bad presences from this kind of thing. If you're full woo, you go, well, I got the fucking devil out of my house, or whatever. and right now, it's interesting that one of the comments, and that's great, is that on the thing, it's so funny about this podcast is because Spud is meant to be the skeptic and Tommy's meant to be the believer, but it's never like that.
Yeah. I'm like wanting to know more. I'm like, you man, come on, sign me up. I want to talk to devils.
But I suppose that one of the reasons why it's like that at the minute is that at the minute I have to be kind of in a very rational bunny ear place because of like the therapy and stuff like that I have to kind of be as, I suppose, non-magical thinking in ways to try and work out some of the actual psychological stuff, and so I probably have a kind of an aversion to kind of magical thinking in that kind of way. But also,
whereas I want to go up a mountain, take ayahuasca, and talk to fucking Gabriel. Woohoo!
Which, I mean, I'm all for that too, stuff like that. But it's just like it's. I kind of, it's the ebb and flow and things. I go through different things, but it's funny because for someone who's kind of in a rational, I suppose, place at the minute, I'm about to embark on what will probably be my biggest magical kind of ritual I will ever do, which is the next comic that I'm going to do, because the scope and the thing I want to do with it is like it's the most magical thing I will ever do.
That's one thing, because you have something about if they build it and they will come mentality. So like you were saying with your comic them, so you made the comic them and then no one seemed to be arsed about it at all, even though you had your shiny comic. You're like, well, I've done my bit. So like, but like, is your bit not enough? Because like now, like, do we all have to be fucking masters of marketing and as well as fucking good artists or writers or designers or plasterers or whatever? Like, you have why do we have to be fucking good at everything, Tom?
Well, it's not that you have to be good at everything, but like you have to manage your expectations of things, and that it's more of a case of that. If I just turn up with my shiny comic that I've done, and expect the world or the universe to bow at your feet and tell you you're wonderful and here's your $1 million and here's your book deal or whatever, that's the problem. It's not that I think, there is an element of I think you need to be all these things now, because you need to be all these things now if you're going to do anything, or hire people or have friends and stuff like that. But it's not a need. It's only it's more the expectation or that kind of sense of privilegedness by I've done my art. Come on, universe, pay up. And the universe, in my experience, doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, so
for the most part.
You probably still have to keep going. Well, maybe I don't know how you feel about that, but like, maybe then you should, if it's a comic or say it's a TV pilot or whatever, maybe you need to hound the production companies more or go after a book deal.
No, well, I think, not necessarily harder, but go after it at all. Don't just expect because I wrote my book that I now the universe is going to supply me with a publishing deal. It's like I want a job. Universe, give me a job.
Yeah.
Well,
I have a LinkedIn profile.
Yeah. Have you applied for a job? No.
No.
Well, fucking apply for a job. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like the expectation of getting the job without the application. That's what what I'm trying to point out at that is. And I had this kind of sense of that if I did my bit, that the rest would fall into thing. And that doesn't seem, for me anyway, and for most people I talk to, that doesn't seem to be.
Yeah.
The thing. And it's more of an advice on how, because not in a kind of, wake up and smell the coffee or reality. This is reality. Life's tough now. That's not what it's like. This will stop you from feeling really frustrated and depressed and sad, having completed an amazing piece of art or whatever it is that you should rightfully be happy about, proud of, and all of that. But you're going to feel shitty about it if you then expect validation or whatever it is that, like help from the universe, that probably isn't going to happen. And then if you're like me, you will then discount your art because of it. Because you say, well, if the universe doesn't care about me, I don't care about me, no one cares about me, this is shitty art. So it's kind of to try and avoid that. But you're right, so like you don't have to be all of these things, and you don't have to, but why do some bands get signed very quick and some don't, who have equal talent? They probably have a bit more marketing skills or something, or, maybe had better luck. It's hard to know, but it's there's so many amazingly talented people.
I think luck is overlooked a lot. I was reading something, Jesus, where was it? Some proper fucking publication, Times or Time Magazine or The Economist or something like that, something highbrow anyway. And they were saying that, like, in a massive survey of billionaires, it found that something like, I think it was 63% of them were lucky.
Right.
It was down to luck. They were selling the right thing at the right time to the right people who wanted it, and it took off. Whereas, Johnny down the road didn't sell it to Michael.
And they're the guys who are writing the book going, stood up, I did my thing, and then the universe just arrived. And,
it is luck. It's absolutely luck. I mean, I know a fella, I don't know him, I haven't seen him in many, many years now, but he's from my hometown, and he didn't do well in college. But he was one of the lads who was supposed to do well in college. He was a bit geeky in school, and he was going to do this, he was going to do that, and then he just kind of went to college and went, oh, Jesus, fuck this, I'm just going to smoke a ton of weed. And he did, and his kind of life fell apart. And then he just kind of came back, and now he has some fucking shit hot deal making stuff for someone connected with NASA in America, making these little AI robot-y things, and it's like, guy's a fucking millionaire now, and fair fucks to him. But it's like, but it's luck. It's complete luck that he got into this only because he was a complete slacker, stoner in his 20s and wasted his life, and then realised, oh fuck, what am I doing? I'm smart. I should be doing something with my talents. Started something, it took off. He got lucky, and then he's made for life.
Millionaire.
Do you know?
But I kind of like Queen or Freddie Mercury's approach to the whole luck thing. It's going like, be prepared, have everything in place, for when the luck arrives, that you're ready to go with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like luck can arrive on Tuesday and go, oh, well, we don't have our single ready. We have rehearsal in a week. The drummer's, an alcoholic or whatever. Be there, ready, have all your things. Where when the fucking manager happens to be sitting beside you on the plane, you go, here's my demo.
Well, because hard work leads to luck. Do you know? Or it can just come out of fucking nowhere.
One of my favourite definitions of magic, which I don't know where I got from, but it's definitely not mine, is magic is the art of getting lucky on purpose.
Yeah.
Which that's really like. Yeah.
That's good. No, I like that. There's you had stuff. What were the other points? Learn from others by listening.
That was a big one that I learned from sound engineering, which was that rather than pretending you're an expert, that you're not going to learn anything about that. Like, I'd go into these venues and stuff, and I wrongly assumed that I meant to know everything, how this PA works and this mixing this, whatever. And then kind of talking to different people and realise no one has a fucking clue. and so rather than going in and spending an hour bluffing, panicking myself, trying to work it out, just go in and go, what's the story with this effects rack? And they'll go, this is the story with the effects rack. And then you know how to do it. And you just get on with it. And no one cares. Everyone's happy. It's the night moves along. But like, spending years of pretending I knew it, different things would, because you're embarrassed not to ask, or you have this sense of, I should know this, or I'm not let anyone know that I'm not brilliant
That's
at
nonsense,
this.
Like. The best thing you can do is ask for help, because people like we said last week with the Dale Carnegie thing, people will give you help if you ask. People love being asked for help. And as well, I mean, this kind of ties in with the Dale Carnegie stuff, is that like what I was saying last week about how to get people to like you is to listen to them. But it's like, it's not just a manipulative thing of getting them to like you because I'm pretending to listen or whatever. It's like, no, well, actually, you can learn a lot by listening to people. Like a lot. Like really a lot. Just listen to them and get them talking about what they're into and what they're interested in. And if you can find a way that matches up with what you're into, this is like a transurfing thing, one of their, what do you call it, totems or whatever, is this frailing. So like if two people are into the same thing and they can help each other out, then, you know, all rising tide lifts all ships kind of thing. You know? So it's
of course the kind of caveat though, I suppose, what's the helping people is then become self-sufficient though. Like it's the asking for help with the idea of that I'm going to become better, not in that you are now going to do that for me. Oh yeah,
you're my bitch now.
So it's like, ask for help. How do I use this effects rack? Now I know I've gained my thing. Not will you do this for me every?
Will you come here next week and I'll give you a beer?
Or whatever. And in Magic, there's a kind of a thing that people would go, well, you could ask Boone, which is a goetic demon, to help you every week to pay your rent. You know, that's a legitimate act of thing. Or you could ask Boone to show you how to create your own wealth, and therefore then you can pay, how to learn how to become better with your money, but money management, or whatever it is, and then you become, and I think the second way is much better magic, to become self-sufficient, rather than, every time something happens, going and asking.
Well, I mean, surely there's a type
Gabriel.
Well, I don't know, but like surely people must see that there's some type of balance going on. Like you can't always be asking for something, because if you
I don't think they do. That's where my problem and why I wrote that is that from what I see, the majority is this asking for stuff rather than asking for the ability to do it myself.
You see, but then like, well, I don't know, but I think there is kind of some weird kind of fucked up balance in the universe that if you're always asking and asking and asking, and if you do get it, well, then obviously it has to be balanced up somewhere. So you're losing something somewhere, Oh,
like a karma kind of sense.
Kinda, but like, but like,
or like that nothing is created without energy. So to do something, you have to in some way expel some sort of energy to create something else. That kind of a.
Yeah, but
for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Blah,
and
blah,
it's kind of like it's even like the way, like, for example, the way like Hunter Thompson took loads of drugs and drank loads because he knew that it would make him give 150%, but he knew it would mean that he was shortening his life. He knew that going into it. So I reckon there's some type of balance with that. Like if you're always asking, there's something else going to happen somewhere. Maybe with your mental health, for example, that you're going to get annoyed because you're not getting the things, and this is the balancing.
Yeah, the important thing though is that I don't think it's a punishment, which it's easy to go to. You'll be punished for doing that. I don't. It's things like what happens. It's like if someone comes to your door every week and gives you 50 quid, and then for 10 weeks, and then you start relying on the 50 quid.
Yeah.
Then on week 11, where's the
gone?
Where's the guy with the 50 quid?
Yeah.
And you go, oh well. I don't know what to do with my life because I've 50 quid in expenses that I didn't have 10 weeks ago or whatever. There's just kind of, and then you start blaming him. But that cunt, like he owes me 50 quid, And I think there's kind of that element of that where you like learn to make your own 50 quid or something. I don't know, because it kind of feels like you're having a moral judgment on people for asking. It's not what I mean, and it's kind of like the book them and them come thing. It's not that I think that there's anything wrong with you to want the universe to help you. It's that it leads to frustration. It leads to constantly asking for help and not working on yourself will lead to frustration and not getting you where you want to be ultimately, rather than it being morally wrong.
Or else maybe you're asking for the wrong type of help, because you're saying, it's like, I think they say it in the Transurfing book. You've said it to me as well about sigils. It's that instead of asking for the $1,000,000, say you want the bottle of wine that you're going to drink when you celebrate getting the $1,000,000 that you've worked for, something like that.
That kind of thing. Like it's like the punching, and when someone, you don't aim for someone's face, you aim for an inch behind their head. You know, that's because that means that by the time you're hitting the head, you're at full force. Whereas if you're aiming for the head, you're at full force an inch in front of the head or whatever.
Tommy, there's a violent side coming out of you. I've never seen this before. You want to fly through the other two? Have you time?
What is it? What's the other two?
Stop paying attention to the news and give up caffeine.
Oh yeah, well, the stop paying attention news. Yeah, just to stop paying attention. Like the coronavirus thing is a perfect example of all that. Where we started all this kind of thing. Like most of the things you can do nothing about other than worry about it. And why would you add more worry to your life? And worrying is all you're doing. Really, then is adding to the sum total of sadness and despair in the world. So, you know, that's my kind of view. And my life has got infinitely better when I stop paying attention to... Because it's a lie anyway. It's not true.
It's awful when, like, you meet up with people and they start talking about the news. Because, like, it just means you've fucking nothing to talk about.
Yeah. It's funny, a couple of people have said to me recently about that exact thing, that when I stop listening to news, that when I talk to people, a friend was saying, I get a bit embarrassed that I don't know what's going on. Like, fuck that. Who cares? Like, don't be... And he was saying, well, embarrassed not the exact word, but I think it kind of is like... I don't know about the coronavirus. I don't even know if there's a government in Ireland. I completely have decided to ignore all that.
I couldn't name you one minister in the Polish government, and I used to know him, and now I just like, whatever, don't care.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I voted, and then the next day I went, did my people get in? Some did, some didn't. That was it. I don't even know what they did after that. I let them play among themselves.
I mean, look, I can small talk with the best of them, and like, because I know so much about football, I can talk about football with anyone for literally hours. But that's because I'm a football nerd, you know. But like, when you do meet up with someone and they just start talking about the weather or the news, it's like, oh, come on, let's talk about something a bit deeper than this. Like,
well, the new thing is you talk about Netflix and just, you know, TV shows. That's the common. That's the football, the universal football.
Yeah, that for me just kind of turns into a pissing contest, though. And then it's like, well, how much of a sad life do I have because I watch more telly than you? It's like, well, what's going on here? Like, I'm proud to stay. It's like, what's that meme about the Alexa? It's that in the 50s, housewife is on the phone and she's like, oh, I don't want to say too much on the phone because the government might be listening. And then the next scene is like, Alexa, can you tell me if da-da-da? It's like, what? That's I'd never have one of them in my house. No fucking way. No way.
You put them on your phone anyway. No matter, like, if the Google
I do actually, don't I? Fuck. Yeah. Bastards.
Oh well.
May as well get an Alexa then.
The caffeine thing is like I completely 100% stand by that, even though I've since then I've gone back to caffeine. But it's an interesting thing that when I went to doctors or whatever it was, and I ever mentioned stress or anxiety or like that, I was never once asked about my caffeine intake, which I think should be the first question you were asked. If you're drinking 20 cups of coffee today or a day and you go, I feel a bit anxious. Oh, do you? I'm not surprised. Maybe stop, you know. Instead, have some Lexapro. That'll sort it. No, stop with the fucking caffeine. Yeah, you know.
Did you see the photo of the Irish policeman last week?
No.
He walked up to some car asking for tax and insurance, whatever, and he had a bit of powder in his nose.
Oh, no way.
It's deadly. Looked a bit like my cousin, who's also Gareth, but it wasn't him. I think, fuck, Jesus, that'd be some explaining, wouldn't it? I'd never be able to keep my mouth shut if it was my cousin, though. I'd be like, ah! You know?
People, I was saying to you last night when we were talking about this, it was like going, that of all the things I've ever said in podcasts or on blogs, whatever, that paragraph about give up caffeine was the biggest pushback I had from people. Not in a massive nasty way, but it was like, no, you're wrong. No way.
Do you know
I'm willing to go with everything else you say, but I'm not giving up my coffee. No way.
It's mad, like this kind of thing that caffeine is held in this high pedestal of regard. It's a bit like the way bacon was a couple of years ago. And it's like, for me, caffeine is like, it's something to drink. And like I said to you last night, I'd rather have a pint than a coffee, but I can't, you know, because I need to drive or, you know, not be happy. No, but like caffeine, okay, it gives you a bit of buzz, a bit of energy. But like my missus drinks, she must drink it's three mugs, so that's 6 coffees a day, kind of thing, you know, which is bad for me. One's enough, but like I think I just said, I love coffee. I love coffee more than you. I love coffee way more than you. I go to Starbucks and then get the fuck out of here. Why do you don't go there? Well, it's weird. It's like this competition of like people outdoing each other, how much they like a drink.
But it's a drink. The Netflix thing, though.
It's a drink.
I've seen all seasons of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I've watched every Harry Potter film. I watched them before you did. I was getting mochachinos before you were.
Oh, damn. Yeah, I remember the first job I ever had. I was in a pub in Art Mines, and all we had was this ground coffee. Like, it was...
Instant coffee.
It was coffee or, like, okay, what are your coffee choices? Black or with milk? I said, you don't have a mocha frappuccino. I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck that is, man. Do you know? And I remember one of the fellas saying to me one day, "Oh, Paddy, God, I thought you'd have been the type of guy that'd be into all the mad coffees." And I'm like, man, I'm from Timon in Wexford. Like, we only got coffee like 6 months ago.
We've just recently got curry. What do you want?
It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's just... Yeah, I don't know. Look, whatever. I mean, I'm not going to judge people for what they're into. Like, go mad. But like, it's just a drink. What's the big deal?
It's the marketing. It's costing Starbucks, and that's.
Oh, but you know what it's like as well. Yes, this thing came into my head the other day about beer nerds, and it's like, you know, being a beer nerd is just useless information, because it's like, well, unless you were a brewer, then it's very handy. But if you're just a fucking alcoholic. And this has 27% hops, and it's made from darkly roasted fucking outer Mongolian. Shut the fuck up! Who gives a shit? It's just beer. You know, stop.
Yeah.
Like, not everything has to be a competition of knowledge, does it? Does it? I don't know anymore.
Seems to be. Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss, Tommy. Bye-bye.
Bye.